So there's still
Yeah.
money in there. Yeah.
And there's some salary that comes out of there,
Yeah.
and
These
consultant fees.
allocated costs?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
The salaries and average legal, with the money that if we do the Vern's proposed cut, would there be enough for it to sustain itself without breaking into the fund balance, without spending a reserve?
We can
Yeah.
say put in about 15,000.
Yeah, I think you'd still have to take some out.
I don't know what the allocated costs are.
Well, and if you, like if we sell land somewhere in the business park or whatever, you would have some revenue there too.
Some would go back in.
Yeah.
Did you have a fund balance for that? The 202 fund? Just a current.
Current cash is $314,000.
Oh, there's the,
Yeah.
okay.
So even if we dip into that, it's not like the way that other funds have been rated, that's for sure. So
last year's levy was $740,000, right?
Shade over.
Is that right, Kathy?
Yes.
No, 740, right?
416.
740 on the nose on that.
740.
In staff's opinion, we can responsibly do a 0% increase?
Well, it won't be a 0% increase to the taxpayers though. They'll still have an increase because of the way the new state.
Exactly, and hopefully that they're not going to have that huge hit next year.
Right, yeah.
But our budget would stay,
But
Yeah.
they are,
our levy would stay
the increase
the same.
isn't coming from the city.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
Steve
it's the state.
and I have had this conversation a lot. I mean, we're talking about 4.7% increase, but then there's that perception, are you holding things down? Can we do 0% when everybody's had this, whether state legislators want to admit it or not, property tax increase thrust upon them by their actions in the last budget cycle.
Well, the short answer is certainly we can. We can do it. We can go lower. We can go all out if you want. We could take a year or two, we probably not have anything. Do we need to worry about any LGA cuts or anything else coming down the pipe this year?
Probably.
Well, let's see, reading
Yeah, I'm just asking your opinion, I'm not asking for.
Yeah,
put your hand on the Bible, I'm just-
my opinion is that they're not. In fact, what I think they're gonna do is, if the state continues to show a surplus, they're gonna figure out a way to do the market value credit differently. Probably before even the first half taxes are due. Are they projecting a surplus? Last I heard was $1 billion deficit.
It was
$800-some million.
It's almost a $900 million surplus.
Ah,
But that's the one.
clever accounting.
Right, and that all goes into reserves, and they aren't using any of it to pay back the schools.
Nope.
That they owe.
So they'll either give it back to schools, which is what they ought to do.
They ought to do it.
Or they'll fix the market value credit.
They owe the schools a lot of money. You wanna make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion that we set the 2012 levy at the, whatever number that was, then
$740,000.
the budget, or the levy at the 2011 for a 0% increase.
With the difference coming out of the Economic Development Fund?
Okay?
I mean,
If that's what makes the most sense.
Do you need that for the motion, or do we
prefer
just?
it in the motion.
Okay?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Bunkie, second by Mr. Robertson.
Question.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion passes. 0% levy increase.
just so people don't think it means 0% on their taxes.
No.
I believe the
It's not.
citizens of Rushford are intelligent and informed and understand that.
Well, we've got an answer if they ask.
Yep. All right, anything to add to that? Let's move on to 8C. Review of the draft request for proposal to lease and operate a liquor establishment at the former City of Rushford liquor store. See attached draft, RFP.
I haven't done one of these for a while, so thought I'd better draft one up and get your input before I put this out. My intent was, take your input and we would run something in the local paper and have them do, and I don't know if that's too soon, certainly everything's up for discussion, but my thought would be by the end of the month in January, that'd give everybody 4 months or 4 weeks to crunch numbers and do their consideration. That also gives us 4, although I've been hearing probably gonna need about 6 weeks to do our space study. So that would give us 4 weeks on this, a couple weeks to evaluate RFPs, evaluate a space study, and then make a decision in February, and we can go from there.
Have you had any interest, Joan?
A couple people have called. What I've tried to do is to leave it as ambiguous as possible so that they make the offer and we evaluate. Doesn't mean we can't negotiate with somebody after the fact, but rather than tell them what we need for a minimum, just see what their best contract would be.
Well, I believe that if you do this, that it has to be on a basis, not, how am I trying to say, not on such a favorable basis that they would have an advantage over the other liquor establishments.
I would agree with the exception of off-sale. I would argue that, and the two that have contacted me have asked me if the city intends to offer additional off-sale licenses.
That's somebody else's problem.
I just don't know if we want to issue that many though. If somebody knows that they're going to have the only one in town, that's going to be a lot more lucrative for.
Yeah, well, it will, and all we get is $300.
Plus the lease.
Yeah,
What's the lease?
well, the lease has to be done on basically a fair market value of what the building.
Right. I'm just saying that if someone's gonna look to draft the lease up and I tell them, council's gonna issue 5 off sales, so you get one of them. You have to ratchet down what they think their revenue is gonna be.
So you're just looking for input on this, not an adoption this evening?
I wanna get this in the paper.
Anybody that would request or puts in a proposal is gonna have to meet the requirements of the new ordinance, right? The new off-sale
Correct.
ordinance, so they're not necessarily guaranteed
The only
anything,
one.
right?
That's correct.
I mean, whatever, and the rules, I'm hoping, are stringent enough to sort of weed out the ones that aren't serious.
Well, we can only do what the state allows us to do.
Right.
No, it's expensive to put it in, you put in the inventory, it's just not every place would be in a position to.
Right. And I think some of the ones that are talking about doing it, it's a pretty limited basis. They're not talking about having shelves upon shelves of wines and other things. It's just a couple of, the selection won't be very big. But that could change. Somebody could come in and purchase another spot and
Yeah.
have a bigger one. We don't know.
I don't think we're gonna get MGM in